the Overman Warrior Podcast.
Hi, Rich Hoffman here. You wouldn't believe what I was doing when Nasir Best, the 21-year-old kid from Maryland, attacked the White House. I was reading. I always say when I get a new biblical archaeology review, I block off my evening. It came on a Saturday. I stopped cutting grass. Took several hours just to kind of go through it. There's some brilliant articles in this one. I love it. I've said it when I was talking about my book, The Politics of Heaven. One of my side hopes for that book is to create a narrative that helps people fund more archaeological projects, because I want to see more archaeology going on around the world, especially in the Holy Land. I cherish every one of these articles. It's my favorite, by far my favorite thing I get in life. And I took a few. This is a really good article, Sublime Sanctuary, right there. It's about the temple period, what was the temple like, the politics of it at the time of the Dead Sea Scrolls when they were writing them. Because I talk about the teacher of righteousness all the time. And it's a really good article on the second temple period, which those guys were obsessed with righteousness, and I love the debates. I love learning about it. And you need more archaeologists out there, in my opinion, doing this kind of stuff, so I can get this magazine and read more about what's going on in the world at my doorstep. I'd love for my book, The Politics of Heaven, to open up some funding avenues to get more people who have a lot of money and want to know what to do with it. Send it to your friendly neighborhood archaeologist and get some research done, and let's get more information based on research and development. That's what I like to see happening. So I was reading this as I ritually do whenever it comes in the mail. I was reading this when I found out that this kid attacked the White House. Just went up to the guard shack and just opened fire. I guess trying to storm their way in. And this is a case, obviously, everybody's spooked about all these assassination attempts against Trump. These are the Raptors testing the defenses of the Secret Service. Now, it was just a few weeks ago, I was at that exact same guard shack, and when I was there and I was looking people over, and there's a lot of pedestrian traffic walks up and down that road right there on 17th, 16th Street, 17th Street. A lot of foot traffic, just in the Pennsylvania Avenue area, and where it zigzags, where it should intersect with the White House, and it goes up and around and up and again. There's a McDonald's very near this guard shack, just up the road a little bit. And my wife and I tend to go there a lot. And when we're in there, you see people who have just visited the White House a lot, celebrity types that you see on TV. They stop by that McDonald's, and there's a little room in the back just to the right, and they usually sit back there, and that's usually where I sit when I go there. No doubt that when Trump wants a McDonald's hamburger, he sends a staffer out that guard shack up the road to go get McDonald's out of that McDonald's. And I just say it because I'm familiar with the area, and you have bullets flying around. And I was at that guard shack looking at those Secret Service people who were working there, thinking about just this very kind of thing. What if somebody come up here and just started trying to shoot their way in? No doubt someone walking down the road would size these guys up and say, I think I can get through them. And when's someone going to actually try it? Because there's a lot of anger out there, and the Raptors are testing the defense. They did it at the correspondence dinner. These are people that know that they're not going to come out of it favorably. They go up to a guard shack like that knowing they're probably going to get shot in the process. Probably aren't going to make it. They're going to throw their life away like the guy at the correspondence dinner did. These are young people. This guy was 21 years old. So I was at the guard shack, kind of going through the security process, and you're like, what stops anybody from trying to really kind of go beyond polite society and break this perimeter? And I'm happy to see that they're not very successful. Just to not get too far into the personal stories, but I do have a former employee of mine who is on that Secret Service security detail at the White House. Actually, is attached to the president. So I know a little bit. I hear from him every now and then through his father. I hear how life is going on with him a lot. Not quite daily, but close to daily. And I'm proud of what he's done in his life and what he's doing. And I know a little bit about the Secret Service because I hear the stories of what goes on behind the scenes through that means, through that former employee. And when my wife and I were just at the White House at that guard shack, walking around, there are Secret Service people everywhere. And it's a tough job, and they have to stay vigilant when all these people are just kind of casually walking around the North Lawn. I was in the North Lawn for a very extended period of time that day. So I can see and understand I can sympathize a little bit with this guard shack and how it was attacked. And the Raptors testing the fence, these radical Democrats working through the youth movement, their version of brown shirts that they've been able to work to their cause through psychological means. It's certainly been a tactic. We talk about how elements of the MAGA Republican Party have been suckers for Democrat talking points that they go out and they support people like Thomas Massie. And that's purely psychological. The talking points get dropped in through the media. The media understands the psychology of rebellion and how they can appeal to people's natures of righteousness and manipulate that to serve a political cause. Happens all the time. The Chucky Schumers of the world and Nancy Pelosi's of the world. This kid, Nasir Best, 21 years old now, just a few years ago, was in high school, and he was radicalized by these teacher union types that clearly were putting out the bat signal to throw their lives away for just these kinds of things, to go test the fences and see how the Secret Service reacts or build intelligence up against. Well, this is what we've seen happen. This is what happens if you storm the scan shacks at security checkpoints. Or at these guardhouses at the White House. This is what they'll do. This is how quickly they react. This is the kind of weapons they'll use. And they're building up intelligence for this, as mass collectivism often views things. They're all taking notes and they're modifying their attack vector. This is how evil works through people. And I wouldn't even call this a terrestrial consciousness. It's more of a extraterrestrial consciousness that works through weak-minded losers, people like this Nasir Best, who are easily radicalized to leftist politics. This is no different than the kind of radicalism that you saw in John Wilkes Booth. The psychology study of how do you turn an assassin from a political protester into an actual caretaker of villainy, such as assassination attempts, whether it's against Charlie Kirk or the White House. Those guard shacks are pretty imposing, and you walk up and down that road, 17th Avenue, in that part of D.C., and you see the Secret Service out, and they're guys just like us, usually. And given the fact that one of my former employees is one, out on that detail almost, there are people that think like we do about a lot of things. They're not super people. I like them to be, but they're humble, normal humans that have all the false senses of security that go from mundane practices every day. You're there, you go to work every day. Someone's not trying to kill you every day, so you get a little lax in your defenses. You're not so quick on the quick draw because you've become a little complacent yourself. You're looking to go home to your wife and play video games with your kids, and you went home alive that day, and you should be happy about it. And how many times do staffers for the White House go over to get the president some McDonald's over at that McDonald's, just to go off premises, and nothing happens? You walk among you come out of the Oval Office right by the West Wing. You walk up the little north lawn through the sidewalk there. You go out that guard shack. You go out across the street. You're now suddenly from a high security area to a low security area with common people, homeless people walking around everywhere. And for them, it's like you're on the other side of the world. All of a sudden, beyond that guard shack. And people watch you who are walking down that street. You may not think they're paying attention. They drive little bicycles up and down. They have these little electric scooters that go up and down that sidewalk right there, right in front of that guard shack all day long. And they see the people day in, day out who come and go. And they watch you go into that McDonald's. And they watch your body language. And they know that you've just been 2 feet from the president. And they watch how you lean on your left foot or your right foot. And they start thinking, I could take these guys. They're not so tough. It's just that little thin guard shack right there and some armed people, 4 or 5 of them. If I could shoot my way through those guys, I could get to where that guy goes all the time. Probably going to be a lot harder than that. I think by the time you start hearing a few shots, people reacting quickly to the shots. There were media people who were doing live coverage at the White House when those shots rang out. Secret Service, I think, did a good job of reacting quickly. And I mean, given someone just walked up and starts, getting aggressive, you got to shake off the shock of that and go right to attack mode. Not easy to draw your gun and fire on another person. That's hard to do because once you pull that gun out, it's like, am I actually shooting somebody else? Yes, I am shooting somebody else. I don't. It's an uncomfortable feeling. That's not something that people. It's not a natural feeling to know that you're stealing someone's life from existence when you fire the gun, especially when you feel the vibration of the gun going off in your hand and knowing that it's pointed in the direction of another human. And then you can actually, especially if the bullet hits armor, a bulletproof vest, or hits a torso, and maybe the bullet hits something strong on the torso, like a phone or a thick jacket that has something in it that slows the bullet down. That concussion of the bullet striking, you could feel that it comes back at you, and it's shocking. So it's not like you see in the movies. It's a weird feeling. So should we have an ultra secure perimeter? I would say it's very secure. When you go through that security checkpoint, there is no question where you're at. You're in a very secure place, and that if you make a sudden move, and it's disconcerting, because if you make a sudden move towards something, they're going to have to react very aggressively, and it's a disconcerting feeling. Even when you go there as a guest and you're going there with the pretense of being well known, and that you expect them to treat you nicely because you have some backing behind you, where they should know who you are, that you're not a threat, that you have the little pass that says, I'm a good guy. I come to the White House a lot, or I associate with people who are constant threats of assassination attempt. I can be trusted, right? You expect them to treat you fairly. You don't want to be accosted every time you go through that security checkpoint. Media come and go from there all the time. And they're doing a live shot at the White House all the time. And, it's like, hey, we got about 2 more hours for the president speaks. Let's go over and get a Big Mac at that McDonald's right over there. So they go up the North Lawn. They go out. They're like, hey, I'm with NBC. I'm with CBS. I'm with Fox. I'm going over to get a coffee at McDonald's. Okay, man, see you when you get back. And you walk in, you walk out. And you got all those people on those bicycles. Surely people like Nasir Best. There's a parking garage right there. And every time you come out of it, that's where I generally park when I visit that area. Because you literally come up out of the parking garage and you go straight into that guard shack and you're in the White House. Always there are homeless people hanging out right there when you come to the top of the ramp and you're turning right. They're like always hanging out right there on the sidewalk. And there's people, I'm sure I've seen this kid hanging out in that area because there's lots of them. And they have the electric little scooters. They ride around everywhere. And the bicycles, they ride up and down that street everywhere all the time. They're all over inside that McDonald's. The front part of the dining room at that McDonald's has people sitting around in it everywhere. And you could sit there and just about see into the North Lawn at the White House. And at a guard shack there, closest to it. There's a couple of guard shacks. There's the one where this shooting took place, and there's another one that are very close to that McDonald's. And that side of the street, that's your access points. And they can watch who comes and goes, and you can see who comes out, knowing that they probably are either members of the media or members of the White House staff for the Oval Office that Trump sends over to go get McDonald's. And you know that when you see them come across the street there, and they come in, they will have to walk through that dining room to go to the counter. Everybody that's sitting there knows that these people came. They're dressed in suits usually. They're usually under 30, these young kids, staffers. And they're usually well-dressed and well-mannered, and they don't look like the people walking around the street outside. So it's not easy to case it and get a feel for the kind of people that are working on the White House grounds and then building up in their thoughts. I have nothing to live for. I'm radicalized by left-wing politics. I'm going to get a gun and go up that guard shack and see if I can break through it. Because there's a bunch of powder puffs working there and working on the inside. I see them every day, and I can take them. And then they start getting fantasies. They start building it up in their head. And the psychology of terrorism does its work. And pretty soon, they find themselves at a guard shack trying to shoot their way in to get to the president. There's a lot to talk about here. And it's a very serious situation. And I was in a pretty good mood to hear it. Logically, my first thoughts weren't, oh my gosh, another person trying to kill the president. It's like, oh, I've been at that guard shack. I was there just a few weeks ago, and I could see how someone could think who could fantasize that they could get in that guard shack, shoot their way in and get to the president. And I was thinking large scale, because I was reading my favorite magazine at the time about history. It's always easy to look back in the rearview mirror and look at the history of civilizations and understand where they made mistakes in the past and what they should have done, and looking at it play out in real time. And that's what we're doing here in Washington, D.C., in our capital, with the Trump movement. And how would we look at the Trump movement 2,000 years from now? I would say we'll be reading about it much like this article on Sublime Sanctuary, where the corruption of the second Temple period gave birth to the Essenes and the Dead Sea Scrolls, which I love so much because they capture a rebellious movement that launched Christianity and a context of righteousness, which has given us a fight against villainy to this very day. That's very meaningful. I like the big picture of things, and I happened to be reading this magazine when that happened. So my mind was on the big picture essence of it. and thinking about that guard shack and how we felt when we went there. My former employee who works out of the White House, at the White House, I like him a lot, like his family a lot. Good dude. And not just to say, well, I know somebody, but I do. And you live long enough, you tend to know a lot of people if you do a lot of things in life. And I do a lot of things in life, and I get to meet a lot of people, and I hear a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And I do get a chance to visit important things every now and then. And my wife and I were just at that guard shack, and we came out of that guard shack, had some small talk with the guards there, probably the same guards that opened fire and were involved in this. They're good enough guys. I thought they were plenty battle ready to do whatever they had to do. I didn't get the sense from them that they were soft or lax, but I'm sure I spoke to them, those guys. And we went across the street and we like to go to that McDonald's. My wife loves to go there and get coffee. Something about McDonald's coffee when you're traveling, she loves it. I don't know if it's a feeling of home, because McDonald's coffee has a continuity about it and people like it. So she likes to go over there and get coffee. And we were at the White House. We left that guard shack, talked to those guys, went over to that McDonald's. She had a coffee. I had a Big Mac meal. It was very tasty. It was good. I was hungry. We hadn't had anything for breakfast that morning. And we got there just after 10:30 or so. So I was able to put myself in that situation because we had just been there. And I can almost imagine seeing all the faces involved. The characters of the guard shack, including this Nasir Best, as we came up out of the parking garage and saw a lot of youth laying around on the sidewalks in kind of a homeless condition, or looking kind of ragtag and looking like they're ready to mug anybody who might look like a viable target that might buy them a new scooter. And they have electric scooters, and they look like people who are up to perpetual no good. You don't want to come up out of that parking garage when the sun's down. Even though Trump's done a good job of cleaning up Washington, D.C., you still see those youth laying around everywhere. And I think they're always just one bad decision away from catastrophe, which is obviously the case with this attack on that guard shack. It's serious business, and they are operatives of the Democrat Party, radicalized by radical politics from their youth, from infancy. They've been bred by the Nancy Pelosi's and the Chuck Schumers to be radicals that do just this very kind of thing. And that is definitely a hope that goes on in the psychology of terrorism, that these kinds of radicalized youth will sit out and case people who come and go from that guard shack, and get to know who comes and goes, what kind of body language they project, and eventually they learn that they can probably overtake them if they can just get by that guard shack and get into the building. They would have no problem working their way to the president, because the people they see going to get McDonald's food all the time are not exactly Arnold Schwarzenegger types. They're not exactly threatening or scary. They're pretty weak, and they're protected by aggressive guard shacks that if you can only get outside that perimeter and get inside, the fantasy is it'd be easy to work their way into the Oval Office. No doubt that's what this young person thought. And I know that they probably thought it, because I thought the same thing myself being there. And I thought, there needs to be more layers of security. Should the president be able to get a Big Mac? Should the staffer be able to walk out? Of course they should. Should everybody be stripped down naked to get into the White House? No, not at all. I have an expectation that I say I should be able to pull my badge out and say, hey, I'm this person backed by these people. I don't want to be accosted. I don't want my wife accosted. I expect to be walked through, and they genuinely, the Secret Service kind of looks at you, and they take a mental shot of you, build on character descriptions that they have from their training. And they're like, okay, this guy's coming to see the president. They're coming here to take some pictures in front of the White House. They're not going to pull out a gun and start shooting. or they're not going to try and pull my gun out and start shooting innocent people. They're not going to be a threat. They have to go through that mental assessment all the time. And you can feel it when you're going there, that they're going through that process. But you expect to be good at their job is not enough to make it difficult for you to get up out of bed in the morning and say, you know, I got to go to the White House. I'm going to go strip search me. I got to take my shoes off and my belt and everything, and I got to practically get naked just to get in the White House. I don't want to do that. There should, security is a tough negotiation. And clearly there's radicals sitting outside that gate watching people come and go who are making judgments that they could break their way through that security perimeter and get to the president. And that's got to stop. We're going to have to stop it wholesale, because there's a lot of radicalized youth that have the same ideas as this Nasir Best. And I know that because I just was recently there and saw a lot of these characters just a few weeks ago. Probably this shooter himself and the guards at the shack. It's kind of a weird sensation. But thinking about it in the context of history, I was reading my favorite magazine when it happened. It came yesterday, came on a Saturday afternoon, and I was having a great time reading. As I always say, I block off time for it, and I very much enjoyed it. And just because there was this shooting at the White House, I still enjoyed reading the rest of the magazine, because I have a rule: I don't stop for anything when that magazine comes. I read it cover to cover, and I do not stop just because of this. But it did give me context, I think, just because I had just been there, and I was already thinking historically about the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Second Temple period. I just read a fantastic article on it, and that was on my mind, thinking about the White House and how people are going to view the Trump administration 2,000 years from now. And I think all these assassination attempts will be talked about in the context of future civilizations in a voluminous amount that hopefully people learn a lot of lessons from. Certainly. Weird. Not too shocking, but in the context of history, we're witnessing something that is significant, and there's a way to deal with it that we need to come to terms with. Anyways, Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you ever read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, I think you'll love it. Anyway, have a good day, and see you later.
In the age of disclosure, you must understand the politics of heaven. Coming soon. Coming soon, the politics of heaven in 2027. A treasure hunt through heaven and all human history.